Waiting for it.
And we're live.
And we're live.
And
No notification yet, but.
Oh, wait, yeah, let me look at my phone.
It's usually a good indicator.
Oh.
There we go.
Yeah, Ruffin is live now. What?
Who would have thought?
Dan, you know that identity theft is against the law. And there's no joke. It's no joke.
I'm pretty sure if I did take her identity, you would lock me up in jail quicker than I would leave this state out of anyone.
Yeah.
Well, hello to everybody who thought you were going to see Tina today. Sorry for that notification.
Tina,
everyone. Today,
she's doing the best thing she can do for herself and taking care of herself.
Exactly. If we can't live what we preach,
Absolutely.
practice what we preach, then what are we?
Oh, I don't practice what I preach. I will openly admit that. I could be a huge hypocrite. I will spit out all the PMA, all the good advice, but when I'm in that situation, it's out the door.
It's literally.
I also agree with you on that.
This was literally our chat like 10 minutes ago. Was solidly the positive and negatives, and that's perfect, Robyn.
Yeah. So practice what we say, but don't do as we do. But we can all learn something from Tina right now. Just calling it.
Oh my gosh, yes. So many great lessons.
Yeah. So we
Tina,
love
if
you,
you're
Tina.
watching, we love you.
Well, tonight we are joined by Shelby Maxwell, Robyn Stanton, and Mackenzie Walters. Thank you all for tuning in. As you can tell, Tina's not here, taking care of herself first, and that is priority number one in life. Thank you for joining. It's going to be kind of a free form today, catching up with everyone. No topic specifically chosen, but an open discussion on mental health and self-care. So, yeah.
So, we did discuss a few things that maybe we could talk about. Mackenzie, if you'd like to start that off.
Yeah, I think we were kind of a really good thing is how anger is always foreseen as negativity, and it's not necessarily true, and how you can have positive anger and how anger can push you to make positive changes, and at the end of the day, that's okay. And Robyn was bringing up how there's a really good balance kind of between the positives and the negatives, and how that in turn makes everything positive. And I think that might be something that everyone needs to hear about right now, because I think that there's a lot of anger happening in the world.
I agree. I think that the world is really angry. Nathan told me a story today of a woman who just didn't want to wear a mask. And right now, Colorado, we're in a mandated mask situation by the governor, and it's in a bank. And she threatened to pull all of her money from the bank. And and as easy as it would have been to just go through the drive-through and not have to wear her mask, she opted to express her civil liberties and just try to go in and tell them that no, she was going to do her transaction and she was not going to wear a mask, and he witnessed it. And it's there's a balance. I can get being upset and angry at the situation. It's a lot of anger in the world right now, but that's anger to me that serves no one, not even yourself.
Yeah.
But Robyn brought up a couple good points about anger that can serve you really well, and what you can kind of do with that. I'll let you do that, Robyn.
Just side note, I'm over in New York, and just hearing that other states are only now starting to have the mandated masks, it's just weird, because a couple of months ago, it was scary here. It still is, just because, the weather's nice and people are getting, little fussy and anxious being at home doesn't mean the virus is going to go away. But it's hard to, I see everybody's side. I understand people are frustrated, and I understand asking somebody to look out for their fellow humans is a very large task. But yeah, that anger, there's a lot to be said on that. But segue. Using anger for positivity.
Actually, can I do another side note on mask mandate real quick?
Yes.
New Mexico's been under a mask mandate as well for a while now. Our governor's been pretty quick with stuff, and we don't have as many cases as other places, so that's pissing people off. But we just don't have the infrastructure that those places with more cases do have, so we need to be a little extra vigilant. If we get it, masks suck. But the last person you should be complaining to about wearing a mask is somebody who's working an 8-hour shift in a mask. Like, don't. Like, just please don't. Like, working in a restaurant, patio service only, in 100-degree weather, I'm wearing that for 8 hours up and downstairs. Nathan sitting there, forced to wear his mask all day long. Like, complain about it on your Facebook page, call your governor, whatever you feel like you need to do to try to make the change you want to see. But don't complain to somebody who has it worse than you. Just, like, stop and think for a second. Like, I can't wear my mask for 5 minutes, so I'm going to tell you about it, who has to wear it for 8 hours, whether or not you believe it's helpful.
I have no sympathy. I'm sorry. My mom's an ICU nurse, guys, in Arizona, which is the worst state right now. And she works at one of the major hospitals in the region. And she wears a respirator mask, the full blown, both on the sides of her face, around her head, all day long. I don't want to hear it. I'm sorry. My mom's seeing people die left and right. Fucking deal with it. If she has to, like, after all these years, like, has to do it and does it happily to save the lives of you and your family, then, like, I think you can wear a mask to a store.
I have a friend who has chronic pneumonia and severe asthma, and she's still wearing a mask for her shifts. She told her boss that she can only do it comfortably for 5 hours, so she does it for 5 hours, and then she stays home. Like, that's fine. But if, anyway, sorry, Robyn.
Are we getting off? We're getting off topic.
I think the tensions are high, and yes, I work at Starbucks, and granted, when you pull up to the drive-thru, you're interacting with me for maybe less than a minute. You give me your payment, I give you your drinks, you have a nice day. We ask you because there's not 6 feet between us. Just, hey, can you just pop a mask on? I've had people tell me, oh, because you're wearing a mask and gloves, I don't have to. Oh, I got tested, I'm fine to interact with you. I've had somebody just straight up ask me why. Why do I need to wear a mask? Mind you, it's like New York was the epicenter of this at one point, and you're asking me why. I'm the type of person, I just won't entertain it. The kill 'em with kindness kind of phrase. Mm-hmm. But yeah, there's so much misplaced anger, and I know some people don't like it. Me personally, I don't have a problem with it. I'm so used to it at this point. But it's like a really big conflict of like personal liberty and versus public health. But there's so much we could say about this, but we're definitely going to get sidetracked. And I forgot what I was even going to say initially.
Positive
Where were we going? Positive anger. Yes.
Anger. Yes. Let me help you.
Healthy anger.
Healthy anger. Oh God.
So, yeah, and I mean, yes, there's always a negative association with anger. That anger leads to conflict, leads to a you versus me and us versus them. And granted, like, that is very true, but how can you harness anger to kind of make your, use it as a vehicle to guide you further? So a basic example is maybe having a job that you're not super, happy at. Maybe your coworkers are knuckleheads. Maybe the job is overwhelming for you. Maybe it was just a temporary gig that lasted longer than it needed to, and you get frustrated. Maybe you get home every day and you just feel like super tense. You're angry. You just you don't feel happy. So granted, maybe there are reasons why you can't leave that job, but maybe if you were able to kind of take that as a cue to be like, okay, let me step back. What's making me, feel so anxious all the time? Maybe it is my job. Maybe I can use this as kind of that, excuse the phrase, the kick in the ass to make me start looking for a job, to ask around, to, maybe start penning up a resume. So anger can be positive. And also, I think there's a way to kind of twist the anger of someone else and make it positive. Like something as simple as, say, you encounter somebody at your job and they won't wear a mask. Or maybe a customer, kind of is a little fresh with you. Even like pre-COVID, when masks weren't a mandate, sometimes just even with a friend, if some friends like being kind of testy with you, just ask like, hey, what's going on? We're so quick, if somebody gives us anger, we're so quick to retort. But maybe if you take a step back and give like a reaction totally out of the blue, maybe somebody's just having a really shitty day and they're just like taking it out. But maybe if you ask like, hey, what's going on? Maybe that could change the flow of the conversation. Now, granted, that's like a utopian kind of scenario, but you never know.
Well, I mean, when I'm serving tables, I do have that opportunity to have full conversations. And sometimes it immediately just retorts to them insulting my intelligence. Because, like, you realize masks don't do anything. And then literally somebody looked at her husband. She was like, it's okay, sweetie. She just obviously isn't as smart as you. Like, in front of me.
Wow.
Like, I almost walked out.
Wow.
Whatever. I'm just
I would have walked away.
But, you know, kill them with kindness is kind of how I took that on. My boss was like, you could have given away the table. And I was like, I'm not going to give it to the 21-year-old I just trained. Like, I'm just going to deal with it. But there are ways that I've been able to kind of just engage them in conversation. You know, they try to engage me in a political conversation or in an anti-mask conversation, and I can kind of stir the conversation in a way. I'm like, yeah, the world's definitely, you know, less recognizable than it typically is. And then they'll kind of, you know, talk about smaller things, and then you feel like you're kind of getting along on some sort of front, and then maybe get them to a point where they're willing to hear you out on your side of why you're not feeling great that day either. You know, it can work.
Speaking of like not feeling great that day and hearing about it and stuff, Mackenzie, you brought up another really great point that I'd like to kind of go back to and touch on, which is, you know, you really don't know what kind of day people are having. And I know that we've preached that if you are having a rough time and you need to vent and everything else, to please reach out, because obviously there are people out there who love you and want to support you and want to help you. But I think it's important that we talk about boundaries a little bit when it comes to mental health, and the fact that a lot of the times the people you are reaching out to will also have something going on, or mental health things that they're dealing with as well. And Mackenzie brought up that it would be nice sometimes that if people would be a little more considerate of others and ask, like, hey, is it okay that I vent to you right now? Is it okay that I like kind of word garbage at you because I'm having a really rough day? When you call someone and they answer the phone, you're like, hello, and all of a sudden it's just every problem in the book on top of whatever problems you were just dealing with 5 seconds ago. It's a little hard to process, and then you're kind of like taking your pain and putting it on someone else. So I don't know if Mackenzie, you wanted to touch on that. I thought that was maybe a good segue.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely something that's been happening in my life, where I've been going through a lot. Everyone is going through a lot, I feel like. And so it's just getting almost every conversation I'm having as somebody who's needing to vent, and I do it too, and I get that so much. And I get how important it is to just kind of like let things off of your chest sometimes. But it's definitely been kind of hard when I'm trying to figure out how to process what I'm going through, and then all of a sudden I answer the phone because, you know, somebody I haven't talked to in a while, or it's just somebody's friend, and then it's just immediate like, oh my God, this is what's going on, blah, blah, blah. And I just don't even have a moment to like switch my brain into that direction. And then I end up feeling really bad because I feel like I'm not fully there. Mm-hmm. And it just kind of and then it just adds to my weight. You know, I'm taking on your weight and also feeling bad because I felt like I wasn't present. And it's just kind of, I feel like a lot, you know, we talk a lot about always reach out. And if, you know, your friends will never say no if you need to vent to them or if you need help. But if you could just kind of be like, hey, I'm having a really rough day, can I talk to you about it? And then gives your option to your friend to say, hey, how about tomorrow? Or how about in an hour? Can I like get my brain on that wavelength for you real quick? That would be just, it's amazing when that happens, how much easier it is.
It is. It really is. I'll tell you right now, like right before I walked in and signed on to the mental health chat, like I was having a meltdown with my son who has autism and is on the spectrum. And I am like in this moment going, okay, I got to get on and I gotta talk to people and it's going to be fine and everything's going to be good. But like, I could take that moment for myself because I logged on a little early, chatted with my friends. It was great. But if I get a phone call in that moment, and all of a sudden somebody's like, I'm having the worst day ever, and here's everything that's happening, and my son's still screaming, and I'm still like processing, you know, these things that he said to me, and like, and I'm just all over the place. Like, I'm not going to help you as best as I can in the same way that like, I'm not helping myself either, because now not only am I stressed about my son and my situation, but I'm stressed about you, my friend, who I love very much. And I'm now taking on that pain. And it's just, I think, better for everyone if we're able to just ask permission to give that negativity and that those feelings to someone. Like Mackenzie said, your friends will never say no. We will never say no.
Yeah.
to helping you ever. But if it's the difference between, hey, can you give me 5 minutes, and right now, I'm going to tell you right now that 5 minutes is going to help me immediately. Like just 5 minutes to get my son calmed down and then take a deep breath myself and go, okay, now what? And so I find that's extremely important and valuable to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, definitely. And I think this is something Dan and I think we talked about way back, is how healthy boundaries are for both the person who's speaking and the person that's listening. And, you know, to kind of how to make conversations more mutual. Like, you know, anytime I approach somebody, my first question is always, hey, do you have a moment? I need to talk. And you know what? That's such a it's great for you because it makes you feel like, okay, this person's going to be present for me. And also, like, put yourself in the other person's shoes. If you're, say, approached and somebody's like, hey, do you have a couple of minutes? And maybe you don't have a couple of minutes. At least they're taking the time to be considerate and ask before they open the floodgates and let everything out. And that's healthy. And it can be a bummer if, say, maybe that person can't be there for you at that very moment. Maybe, you know, they're at work, they have their own stuff they're dealing with, which is all totally normal and human. Sometimes it's better if you know, like, hey, this person can't be there for you at this very possible second. It could suck in the moment, but at least this person is being honest with you to say, hey, I want to be there for you, but I can't right now. And, you know, as an alternative, and I'm sure like everybody is so knowledgeable of resources these days, there's nothing wrong with saying, you know, offering a resource to substitute to kind of hold the place. Like, say maybe somebody's in a tight spot and you're like, hey, I want to be there for you. I'm at work for another couple of hours. I have this crisis line you can call. I have this free service you can talk to, just to like kind of blow that steam off in that moment. So that way that person is supported until you can get to them. And that is totally valid. It's not a way of dismissing the other person. It's saying, hey, I'm still trying to help you, but I'm giving you like an appetizer before the full dish comes. You know what I mean? It's a really cheesy equivalent, but it's, you know, there are different ways to be there for people, even if you can't be there at that exact moment.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I found myself doing that to my mother, who I, you know, just brought up earlier. You know, again, she's an ICU nurse, so she's dealing with so much. And my first thought in my mind is, you know, we love her. Like, I don't know. I love my mom. I don't know about you guys. I have a great relationship with my mom. And I look to her for help and advice when I'm in my neediest moments as an adult and a human. And I need my mom. And I was calling her sometimes without even thinking that my mom's working 6 out of 7 days. She's working 12 to 15 hours a day, depending on how the hospital is at that point. She's a charge nurse. She's in charge. Like she manages a bunch of nurses. She has a lot to do. And so I would just call her and be like, blah, 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 blah. This is happening. And I just need to cry. And she's like, okay, sweetie, I'm right here for you. And I'm like, wait a second, are you at work? And then I'd realize that like, I'm dumping on I'm just dumping these problems on my mom as she's dealing with patients and everything else in her break that she has these few minutes. So I finally was like, I'm not helping her at all, who I love very much. And in order to be better myself and maybe calm myself down before I like call her and start panicking and freaking out and getting myself even more worked up, like I should maybe just text her, hey, are you at work right now? Hey, do you have a minute to talk? And it's like, if I ask if she's at work and she says yes, I immediately she goes, is everything okay? And I'm like, no, everything's cool. Like, no rush. Just, can you call me when you can? And, you know, she knows at that point, okay, everything's good. She doesn't worry as a mother. Cause like, I know she in her mind is like, no, you're my kid. It's okay. I got you. Like, what's up? But, you know, it's just, what's really funny is right now on my computer, you guys can't see this, but my mom is calling me right now. That was the weirdest thing ever. My mom is calling me. So I'm going to ignore it in the middle of doing something, and I love her, and I'll text her and let her know. But yeah, I just don't want to, like, I totally agree with the whole, you want to give people, especially people that you love, because usually you're talking about these problems to people that you love. And you want to give those people a chance to be in their best mental state, because they're not going to be able to help you if they are not in the place to help themselves at that moment. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing as like, you can't you can't love other people until you learn to love yourself kind of deal. You can't help other people until, you know, you kind of have your own shit together, at least a little bit.
Well, something on that too, having to wait to speak to somebody kind of became like the sole reason that I had to figure shit out for myself, like build tools on my own. I remember being in jail last year when I was there for a month. A lot of you already know that story, not the full story, but you're aware of it about me. And I was having some serious stuff going down. And when you're there, there's like one part-time mental health professional, and you can send what they call like a kite or like a work ticket as if for maintenance to like, I need mental health. And you can say whether or not it's an emergency or whatever. And for me, it was an emergency. It took them 2 weeks to get back to me. 2 weeks. Which was really, really frustrating. You know, I knew it'd take a few days, but the 2 weeks was frustrating. But it got to a point where I was just like, I just have to figure this out on my own. And that sucks. But I am so much stronger for having to do that. And then so by the time the therapist, like, I wasn't even expecting to see her anymore. And all of a sudden I was working one day on laundry, and they're like, Walters, get ready for your appointment. I'm like, what appointment? They're like, with therapy. I was like, okay. I was like, I don't need it anymore. And they're like, do you want to take a break or no? It's like, yes, I do not. I would like a break in my 16-hour workday. Thank you.
Yes.
And then I ended up talking to her about, you know, how terrible it is that the entire facility only has one part-time mental health professional for like 2 hours. And it was great. But I definitely, you know, while I know that it's more painful to get through things yourself, and I'm not expecting that anybody ever has to do that, but in waiting to receive help from somebody, you can learn a lot. Like a lot of times when somebody's told me, hey, I'm at work, I'll call you afterwards or whatever, by the time they call me, I've kind of calmed down. You know, like, okay, help is on its way, makes me feel just as good as I needed to feel in that moment. You know, I didn't necessarily need to gut spill everything going on, but just knowing that somebody was there and was going to help me or was wanting to or willing was all that I needed.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I am a very emotional person. I am a like tears on the floor of the closet heaving type of person when I'm like in my worst moments. And it's as like, I mean, in those moments that I will or will not reach out to somebody. And if I choose to, I almost sometimes like, I hate saying this, but regret doing it, because I'm like, after I've spilled and word vomited onto my friends and my family and the people that love me, I'm like, was all of what I just yelled about necessary, or am I only mad about this one small bit of that? And I'm working myself up, so now I'm like completely over the edge, and like, and now they think that there's like 1,500 problems, but really there's only one or two, and I just needed to get it all out. And so it's, you know, I actually kind of like when people are like, hey, give me 10 minutes, because by the end of those 10 minutes, I'm like, all right, I can speak more clearly on what I'm actually upset about and what I need help with. And it helps me because then they have a more streamlined approach of how to help me and listen for me, and maybe offer a few words of advice, or just that I'm not like focusing so much on the little things. I'm focusing on the big major problem. So yeah.
Yeah. And then they can give you kind of advice on how they feel about the conclusion that you came to, you know, whether or not it's a healthy one about how you're feeling. Like I did that just the other day, you know, called my friend, she couldn't answer. And by the time she called me back, I was like, I was calling you and I was freaking out. I don't fully remember why I was freaking out. This is what I've decided about the situation. And she's like, that sounds great. And I was like,
I'm proud of you.
And it was just nice. I mean, would I have also enjoyed just like kind of word vomiting and freaking out in that moment? Sure. But I would have probably come to the same conclusion either way.
Yeah.
I'm definitely the same way when it comes to all of that. I think we all are in just little bits here and there. You build up the anger, you build up the frustration. It's all in that moment that it's there and you feel like it's the end of the world. An hour or two passes, you're still there, but you're also kind of like, even if you're not solving the issue yourself, you're still like, okay, that first thing wasn't actually that bad, and by tomorrow it won't even exist. So although it happened, it does matter, but at the same time, does it? It's like that half and half.
It matters, but I know everyone here are adults and can say that they have had moments where like you've made a situation bigger than it is.
Oh my God,
and maybe
so
you're
good.
like compiling things and compounding them, because I do that a lot, where it's one silly thing or like one important thing that I'm upset about, but then I take every other stressor in my life and I go, come here, let me just put you right on top of all of
universe.
I can relate everything.
The whole universe is on my shoulders, and it's not. It's this one problem that I'm like panicking about that's real, but like everything in my mind is going, no, it's all of this, and everything is wrong. But by the time I calm down, it's like, no, it was that one thing. So I know we all as adults do that. Everyone.
I think it's also within the. Good.
Oh, sorry, Dan. Oh.
No, go ahead.
Okay, well, that's kind of the purpose of consistently checking in with yourself on like a mental standpoint, is because when you do have all those tiny little things stack up, all of a sudden one other tiny little thing can just make it feel so big. And so if you're just consistently being like, this is how I'm feeling about things, this is what kind of annoyed me today, and you're figuring it out, if you can pinpoint just the little things that don't seem to matter to you at the moment and kind of work through them before they all just stack up, and then later on you feel really dumb about having an entire mental breakdown over like your cup being the wrong color or something, or somebody not being able to call you back for an hour, or just something, just the one little thing that's also not going in your way. It just can make such a huge difference. I was telling Robyn earlier that when I'm doing a lot and like getting through a lot and being extra motivated, and like additional things can stress me out because I'm doing additional things, like I know that I'm going to have a mental breakdown. Like I just know it. Like I feel this way. I'm like, things are going really, really well. Something's going to make me snap because I'm being extra motivated, extra productive, all this. And it's like adding to it. And just in the act of recognizing that I'm letting things add up, I can kind of take a step back and almost even entirely prevent a mental breakdown from coming.
Mm-hmm. I will say, I don't know, Dan.
Really...
Oh, sorry, Robyn, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, you.
Oh, I was just gonna say, Dan, I don't know if you can put comments up like Tina does sometimes.
I was just about to.
Heather, who cannot be here today because she is just had some other stuff she had to deal with. Very important things. She brought up a good point. She said word vomit makes you feel much better sometimes, and just knowing your tribe gets it and is there for you is a great feeling. Having the right humans is so important. And yes, it is. If like none of this matters if you don't have the right humans to be able to express yourself to, because honestly, like Heather knows, she's my best friend. She like there have been times where I have completely just, unleashed upon her everything that I have been dealing with, in tears and screaming in the car, mad as all can be. And this girl will like, look at me, let me get it all out. And she'll pick apart the things that I'm actually upset about because she knows me so well. And she'll know the right things to get me back on track and being where I need to be, and like kind of more focused and like pinpointed. Yes, you. She said, what, me? Yes, you. But your friends, it's so important to have the right people in your life and to have supportive people, because when you do finally have these moments where you just need to spill and you just need to unleash, to have the right human is to have good mental health, because it's all you need is one person to be like, well, you're being a little silly, or that's stupid, or whatever they would say or wouldn't, or just kind of giving you the wrong advice instead of working to help you calm down and slowly work through the problem. Instead of helping you make it worse, because I've had people like that in my life who have made my problem worse, or they like, I don't know about you guys, but if someone ever vents to you, like I am one of those people that I will listen to their venting, and then I'll try to find a situation in my life where I can maybe like help relate, because I want to have empathy for them. But at the same time, I try to be careful about that, because I also don't want them to feel like I'm taking over the conversation at all of like what they're feeling. And So I know that there are people out there that, you know, will do that too. And that's, yeah, where it's just like, oh, well, you have it bad. Well, let me tell you about my day. And it's like, no, like, please, let me just get it out. So having the right people is so important when you need that, just that moment of breakdown.
I caught myself in that as we were talking before we went live with a friend, and I wasn't comparing. It was just, it wasn't initially comparing, but then it was like, yeah, stressful week 2 for me. And then I'm like, no. That's not why I was reached out to. I just completely deleted the entire sentence or two, and I'm like, that's better. It happens. It really does. But catching it as time goes on it's great.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it is nice to just know that you're not alone, and I think that right now more than ever, it's really, really important to recognize that. I don't know a single person who isn't having a hard week or a hard month. Like, I don't know anyone. So just to recognize that everyone's going through some stuff, and you guys can talk about how terrible things are together is also a valid thing. We're talking earlier about little silly things that are also completely valid, even if you end up regretting them. You know, it made you upset, and that counts. Kind of what Shelby was on. Like, I kind of like to relate to people too, but I've kind of gone in the direction of, here's what I think your anger is stemming from, or here's why that other person may have been acting that way. I try to, not in like a devil's advocate kind of way, which would personally pisses me off. I just kind of be like, okay, well, let's work through like where these are coming from kind of things. And I hope that it's helpful, but I know that, you know, sometimes I have somebody in my life who always try to solve my problems for me or find a way to solve my problems, and that pisses me off. I'm just like, I just want you to listen to me. I don't need you to tell me what you think I should do. And so I try to, like, knowing that bothers me, I try to avoid doing that. And sometimes, you know, people are looking for advice. They're like, well, what do you think I should do? I'm like, well, I haven't mentally even thought of that because that pisses me off. So it's just kind of a weird, everybody needs something different when they're venting.
I just need to be like heard.
Yeah.
I'm one of those people where it's like, I can eventually solve my own problem. Sometimes I need to just say it out loud to someone I trust so that I can work through it as I'm saying it. Like that's where I'm at. But everybody's different.
My therapist. I just scream at her for an hour and then come to a conclusion, and then the session's over, and she's like, great. She's like, someday you'll hear my voice, Mackenzie. Like, well, this is about me.
Robyn, what were you going to say?
Sorry.
I've been typing out a list of like things I've wanted to respond to because it's like super excellent.
Let it out.
Let it out.
Yeah, Aaron, take some time.
Okay, speaking of letting it out and structuring a conversation, you know, I think everyone has touched on it. Like, it's okay if like either you're approached or you're the one approaching somebody else and say, oh, I need to talk. You're okay to say, I just need to talk. Can you just listen? You can completely cut out the feedback. Maybe you're not ready for it. Maybe you don't want it. Maybe you just need somebody to talk to, you know, and the idea of looking in a mirror and talking it out to yourself just doesn't, like, it's weird.
I do that.
I've tried doing it. It's kind of creepy.
It's weird. It's weird.
Sorry, go on.
I'm just reading my notes. So another point I had was if somebody asked, hey, what do I do? Somebody like say just dropped it all on you, and you might be able, like, say somebody presents you with a really crappy situation, maybe a situation that's not good for them, and you know it's not good for them. And I equate this kind of thing to, you know, say like everybody says, oh, you should stop smoking because smoking causes cancer. And it's like, okay, but if somebody isn't willing to quit, then you can tell them till they're blue in the face. So one way to do is to kind of redirect, and that's not to speak ill of anybody who does smoke. I used to smoke back in the day. But, you know, the person who's, you're doing an awesome job, one day at a time.
Yes.
The person who's presenting whatever the matter is, you know, they're going to know what's best for them. You know, it's easy to look to other people for solutions, and you might have a solution. Maybe they're not willing to hear it. Maybe they don't realize it yet. The best you can do is just sort of guide them. You know, everybody is in their own driver's seat. It's easy to have somebody else make a decision for us, but, you know, there's it sounds crappy. There's no growth if somebody's always making the decisions for you. And it's awesome to have support networks. It's awesome to have people to help you, but ultimately, like, sometimes you got to take the training wheels off the bike. And I understand, like, some people aren't ready for that type of stuff. Most of what I had gone through, the majority of my teenage into my early 20s and 30s, I did it on my own. I don't advocate for it because I understand, like, that just doesn't work for some people. Some people need that kind of regimented support system. Other people, it's like, no, I want to go about it my own because it makes me a stronger person. So you're good to be a sounding board in those type of situations, as opposed to, well, I think you should go with, the red shoes instead of the blue shoes, because you still need to kind of give the other person control of their situation, especially if maybe they walk away and what transpires is something like maybe they didn't tell you about. What else do I have written here? Okay.
That comment, Robyn, you'll like this comment. I don't know if you can see him as well. I have it clicked. Jenny said, a response to someone looking for a solution is, what do you see as your options right now? Help them figure it out, but don't do it for them. I love that. I love that. What do you see as your options?
Screenshotting that right now.
Yes, that's great. So,
and if they say maybe they don't have any options, or they don't think that they have any options, there are ways to kind of explore that they do have options. And it might be hard to see them right now. And sometimes, like you said, some people just need to be heard at that very moment. Maybe they just want to get it all out because that's healthy and that's what they need right now. Maybe you can start talking options down the conversation, maybe the next day. But yeah, that's it's hard, especially if somebody says, oh, I don't have options. They might not, it's kind of one of those, kind of tread the water there, try and guide them through a conversation. It depends on like what the situation is. Obviously, certain situations are a little limited in terms of options than others. But, there are ways to kind of make the other person realize like they have more control, they have more power, and they have more strength than they realize. And sometimes it's just being a sounding board to them, even if it's something as simple as having a really crummy day and they just needed to talk, or maybe going and playing fetch with their dog for a little while. Like the smallest things can have the greatest impact, especially if you're in that moment where everything like blew up,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I will say that's another thing that we talked about that I was hoping that we would bring up, are little victories and how important they are. And just, I mean, you never know what the smallest thing, how it can change your day. And to just celebrate those little victories, take the time. I had a rough day today, but I will say that my little victory of the day is that I have started yoga and I've been doing it for a few days, and it's helping my rheumatoid arthritis and it's making me stronger, and I'm waking up every morning feeling good. And regardless of how my day is going for the rest of the day, like I know that like I feel better. Like I feel physically better. And so like that's not even just a little victory. It's a huge victory for me, but like little victories are so important.
For today, mine was, I had cookies and I thought I was out, and I discovered I had one more, and I was just craving it.
That's a great little victory.
It was the best. It was the best. And then I was actually able to take a nap today too, which I'm not somebody who can fall asleep during the day very easily. And so I'm just really excited that I woke up like 3.5 hours later, and I was like, wow, I'm not even mad that I did it.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw in
little things.
Jenny's new comment. Even bringing up options that they wouldn't even consider shows them that they have more power and control over their lives than they thought. Extremes are still options, but your brain is already deciding against them, so it may seem like there's not any options, which can make the panic set in.
Mm-hmm.
My gosh, so true.
Dream options scare you. They scare anyone. And so you panic when you think like this is an option. I can't do that. That's not possible. And it might be, and they might get there, but like bringing up options that they wouldn't consider, knowing that they have power over their situation. It's all so important.
A lot of my issues that I face when trying to choose the right option, or sometimes when I don't feel like I have an option, it always comes down to me not knowing what I want from that situation, or not recognizing that it's in front of me, or that it isn't, or that there's a clear path to get to what I want. And it's not always like, what is the problem here? How do I solve this problem? It's, what do I want from this thing that's happening? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think mine is more, especially with like my options, I get fearful of certain ones. And like, because they're big, again, extreme, right? And so it's one of those things where it's like, well, if I do that, but then I have to do X, Y, Z, you know, all through these bullet point list of things that I'd have to do to get to that point, when really it's just, you know, maybe I'm panicking because it's a little more work than I personally want to do at that moment. And honestly, sometimes you have to. You got to do the work, and it might be the best option, but you just got to get past that fear to be like, no, this is what I need to do. I need to not be fearful of having to do this work and having to move forward. Because that's my problem. Fear, pure fear.
That hits me so hard right now.
You know, like, just the fear of big change.
Mm-hmm.
Change is hard, but honestly, 2020, what else can it throw at us that we haven't already dealt with?
I should have told you a week ago. Hearing that a week ago would have just taken care of a lot of the stress I had.
Mackenzie, I give you permission to call me anytime you need to.
You too. You too.
Goes for everyone. Robyn, Dan, call me whenever.
Likewise for everyone here and in the stream. My gosh.
Yes.
I think the idea of fear and change is something like everybody's experiencing right now. Regardless of, yes, you know, being the virus obviously upheaved like everything. That was huge change. So, but when you start like narrowing it down and thinking like, what are some small changes I have to go through, or I would maybe was in the process of going through, it's scary. Even if it's something that's like super positive. Yeah, I don't know if anybody else gets like this, but like you work your butt off, you get to like that big change, you get to that mile marker, and then all of a sudden you take a step back and you're like, my first reaction is always, oh damn, I didn't actually think this would work out. I wasn't prepared to react like this. And then you get scared of it. I get scared sometimes with like these big positive like changes, and I'm like, not in the fear of, oh, something's gonna go wrong, but it's just like, it's a new unknown. And I'm like, sometimes like when I plan out things in my head, I'm like, oh, well, first I'll do this, then I'll get there. And like, I see like what the next end is, but then you get to that end point and you can't see what happens afterwards. And it's scary, even though it's like all for the good and it's like everything you wanted. And I don't know, maybe it's a little bit of imposter syndrome, but like, I get scared for like good positive change.
I do too.
It's weird.
Well, it's like a promotion, right? Like, I mean, that gets a good example, I think, is you get a promotion and it's an amazing thing. It's the promotion you've wanted. It's everything you hoped for and you got it. You beat everyone else out and here you are. You worked hard for it. But in that same moment, you're like, okay, but here's all the new things I have to learn and do. And here's the people here's the training I have to do. Here's the people I now have to train to do my previous job. And it's overwhelming and it can be scary. Even positive things can be totally scary. Change is not scary, but also scary all at once.
Yeah. Change, whether it's positive or negative, will make your life look different. And that's never not kind of scary.
Yeah.
Like what Robyn was saying, I'm always afraid of the unknown. I feel like, you know, I can make an inventory of the steps I need to take to get to that place. But I don't even think to think past that. I'm just like, yes, that is the goal and I will reach it by doing this, A, B, and C. And then I get to the goal, I'm like, what's next? You know?
And now I have to create a whole new list of all the things I'll do in this moment. And it's,
But if life is all about just like A, B, and C and then goal, A, B, and C and then goal, then what else do you have to do? Really, you've got nothing better to do than create that next list.
Well, life is about the journey. It's not about the end result. It's about the ride. I will be the first person to say, if you should be constantly changing and growing and actively learning something new and bettering yourself. If you're not doing that up until the moment you die, I'm sorry, but like,
you're already dead.
You're already dead. You should be. You're never going to get to.
Harsh.
Well, it's a little harsh, but also not, because it's like, you should always want to be bettering yourself. You never know everything. You never know all of it. You should never get to a point where you're like, I'm fine and I don't need to know anything else. At that point, you're just going to close yourself off to the world and never change or grow. And honestly, like, we all kind of see what happens to people like that, right? Where you're just stuck in your old ways and you don't want to be that person. I don't want to be what I consider is like a old white male politician. I'm sorry, I'm just going to throw it out there. They're just so like, no, these are the values and morals that I find important, and that's it. No, like, life changes, things change, our society changes, people grow, people have the opportunity to become better. And if you're not every single day trying to become better until the day you die, like, I don't really know where I was going with that, but you should be doing that.
So somebody that I never got to know very well is my great aunt. She passed probably 8 years ago now. And I remember, and she was just always so sweet. I never got super close to her, but always so sweet. And something that I very rarely remember is how inspired I was by her when I was like 12 years old. And I found out that she had like 5 master's degrees in crazy shit, just because she was a stay-at-home mom for most of her life and was able to, she and her husband both retired fairly early, and she was like 82 and getting yet another master's degree just because she wanted to learn everything that she was interested in ever. And I was like, you're not doing this for a job or a career or anything? She's like, no. She's like, I just want to learn. And I was like, that's one of the coolest things ever. And it's not something that I think most people probably couldn't afford to do that, but it was just an amazing sort of lifestyle that I was just completely amazed by. Now with the internet and all that, you can kind of do that. You can learn whatever you want, whenever you want it. And just that, her commitment to never stop learning was just completely blew my mind.
That's awesome. That's so cool. I know a couple colleges. I don't, know if we have any older viewers at all, but I know a couple colleges. My college I went to, Cleveland State University, offered for a certain age, I forget if it was 60 or 65, they offered free classes to any alums that they had. So these wonderful human beings that I love dearly, one of which I'm still friends with 2 of them. Their names are Leonard and Priscilla. They're like everything I ever loved and more, and they're like my grandparents, and they went to college for theater as well because they had graduated with a degree, and Cleveland State offered this opportunity that like any of their alums after a certain age could just come back and take any of their college classes for free. And they were just like, yeah, I just wanted something to do with my time, and here I am taking theater classes, and I love it, and it keeps me active, it keeps me great, it keeps me learning. They would take accounting classes. I think Leonard was taking like civil rights classes at one point. But look into that if we have any older viewers. Or if you know anybody, like any of like if your mom or grandparents or anything like that, if they're looking for something, a lot of universities will allow, especially if they already have a degree, but there are certain universities that will offer free classes.
I was actually in a painting class with like a 75-year-old man who was doing that, that was discounted for senior citizens at UNM. And so we decided to take a big intro to painting class, which was required for my art degree. So I was in there because I had to be. I've never been a painter. He was in there because he wanted to learn how to oil paint. And this professor was a grad student, just like most intro courses are. And she was just awful. like incredible at what she did, but just an awful person. And she felt that his work wasn't to her standards, and she dropped him from the course. And I immediately dropped the class too. I was like, I hate you. I hate the person.
So crappy.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I was like, are you? And he was just the most positive person, and just like this little old Mexican man. I was like, that just crushed my soul to the point where I still think about it all the time. And I just immediately dropped the class too. I was like, I'll take this another time.
That's so crappy. Like, I mean, I'm still in school, but like, you want to encourage people's learnings, especially in art, because like art is subjective. What you view as artistic, I view as artistic. It's all different. But anyway, you know, like, I think that's one thing. I mean, I've taught before between substitute teaching, tutoring, whatever. And one of the first tutoring programs I worked with was kind of operating under the premise that like there's no such thing as a stupid question. You know, I think that like kind of prevents people from speaking up, whether it's in a classroom setting or kind of like an open discussion. Maybe you don't want to say like, oh, I don't know anything about that. Can you tell me? You don't want to make yourself look stupid, so you don't say anything. But like, I think we need to encourage curiosity in that sense. Like, it's okay to ask, just to be like, hey, can you tell me the basic premise of X? I mean, you know, there are so many online courses. And just as an aside, because I've been using this to help me kind of get a foundation before I start classes next month, Yale actually has like dozens of free online classes available. All you have to do is just go to their website and click on, and I've been doing it for a US history class, and it's been super. But you know, encourage curiosity, because you know, we're at a time where people are like saying like, hey, I never knew about that, can you tell me more? Like, embrace curiosity. You know, if somebody kind of presents a opinion and they're like, maybe it's something that you might say, oh, that's outdated, that's like just really silly, let me tell you my point of view. You know, work to educate each other, you know, whether it's something as small as, oh, I don't know how to boil water, or, oh, can you tell me about this broader movement that's going on? You know, encourage that.
I will, yes, please let me just jump in, because that is, Robyn, so important. I can't stress enough. You want to make change in this world. A lot of people, right, of our generation, we want to make change and we want it to be better and everything else. But I'll tell you right now, if you don't encourage curiosity, encourage learning, and be gentle with it as well, because you are dealing with other generations and other people who are this is new to them. This is totally new to our generation. We're like, but this is obvious, right? But to others, maybe it's not. But if you're making someone feel guilty for not knowing a piece of information, for not like learning as quickly as you'd like them to, anything like that, I can guarantee you they're going to back away and go, well, fuck it then. Sorry, language. Well,
You're fine.
But forget it then. And I'm going to go back to my old ways, because you're not making me feel very good about learning this information and this new thing. It's so important to encourage curiosity and learning. Yes. 100% agree.
I had to unlearn a lot. I was raised in kind of a way that there was a right way and wrong way to do everything. There was no, like, to the point where I didn't realize until I was like embarrassingly old, that you could put whatever you wanted on a sandwich, like things like that. Like, it was all structure. I was made to feel bad for not knowing something that maybe I should have known. And it's just seeing that and seeing people react to people who don't know something, just like, oh, well, you know, you should know that by now. Like, it just pushes people off. Like, nothing is going to change if we don't let people say, answer, I don't know. Like, it is okay to not know. You have, and people have to be okay with saying that or admitting that they don't know. Otherwise, they make up all their own things. And then we get. And then you have
news articles written about how there's misinformation being spread everywhere on the internet constantly, because people are afraid to just admit that maybe they don't know.
Yeah, it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to be right. It's also super okay just to not know.
Yes. Grow, learn, keep doing. Heather said one of the veterinarians she worked with was 60 when she decided to go to vet school, and she was her hero. 60 years old and decided to learn something new. That's awesome. Never stop learning, ladies and gentlemen. Boom.
Never feel like you know everything. And I think it was Heather. Yeah, Heather brought up complacency, which is one of my biggest things in sobriety because it's like the scariest place to be. Definitely don't get comfortable. You know, as nice as that sounds, once you get complacent, try to stir your life up a little bit because that's kind of when you stop paying attention.
But there's good comfort and there's bad comfort, I think, because it's nice to get to a point where you're comfortable and you feel like, wow, I feel good in my situation and I know I'm healthy and I know that like I'm doing okay and I'm comfortable, and that feeling of comfort is okay to have. But then like the comfort complacency thing where you're like, I will not learn anything else anymore and I am who I am, and if you don't like it, fuck you. Sorry, I keep saying the F-bomb today.
No, it's fine.
I've had a day, ladies and gentlemen. I kind of I'm a mom, so like I get all of it out right here. But you know, like I think there's a difference between that good comfort and feeling like, wow, I'm in a good spot in my life, and the bad comfort of I will learn nothing else anymore, and nothing you say, it falls on deaf ears. Yeah. So just know, you know, be aware of yourself and know where you kind of are, because it's only you will ever be able to sway your own opinion on that, right? Like somebody could say till they're blue in the face, I love my grandmother to death. She's my last living grandparent, but I'll tell you right now, she's one of the most stubborn people I know. And she smokes and I hate it. And she is on an oxygen machine at night, and she's ruined her health. And everybody's told her, like, you know, we want you around, like we love you. Can you just see that, like, you know, you quit smoking at one point and now all of a sudden you're like, well, I'm older and I'm just going to do what I want. And while I agree that like when you get to that point, like, okay, but I love my grandma. I don't want to see her go. And I see her smoking and I'm like, dude, like you're comfortable, you're complacent, like, and not in a good way where you're just like, this is my life and this is who I am and forget it. And it's like, but you don't have to be this way. And you have so much more, like your great grandchildren that you can focus on and like, or not, or like other things that are healthier for you. But again, it's not my place to tell her what she can or can't do. She has to decide that for herself. Yeah. She has to be the one to say, I am not happy where I'm at. I'm not I'm too comfortable and I need to get to a better spot. So, you know, it's only you. So check in with yourself. Are you comfortable right now in a not so great way where you maybe are allowing yourself to just have things fall on your deaf ears because it's just what's easier at the moment? I challenge you to maybe take a whole look at yourself.
I think this is a good segue into, since I guess we're just about at an hour, of course I'll let Dan do the whole like closing stuff, and I'm not saying that we have to close, but just a nice kind of way to bring this, ways to kind of create and self-awareness and check in with yourself. Writing really helps. Just word vomit on a page, however you're feeling. And every time I do that, I start by thinking like I've got really nothing to say, but all of a sudden I'm saying a bunch of stuff, and maybe a couple weeks later I'll look back and be like, all of that was crazy, or it'll just kind of open up something profound for me. You know, either way, it's good. I also talk to myself all the time. I'm going to admit I'm really bad at actually writing consistently, but I'm the weirdo who talks to herself, screams at herself. I'll look at the mirror and scream about my problems because I'm super weird. But I feel like it really does help just being able to see how I'm feeling and just get it out loud. And it's just talk to yourself, whether you want to do it silently on paper or out loud like I do. Just speak to yourself.
I know we said that was weird earlier, Mackenzie, and I apologize. It's not weird to look at yourself in the mirror and talk to yourself. I want you to know I scream at myself too and look at myself in the mirror and have whole conversations. Mm-hmm. So
I have whole conversations in the shower and when I get dressed, whether it's with me or like somebody else I make up, you know, it's
I know real. A couple of my friends, we sing our problems to ourselves. That's me, right? Like I walk around my house just really angry, right? And just be like, and this day sucks and I don't know what's happening and why are we here right now? And like, it's just like, so, I mean, I feel you.
Yeah, I do that all the time in my head when I'm at work, and I know that I've had a particularly rough day if I get all the way home from work at night and realize that I haven't turned music on, because I always listen to music when I drive. It's like my moment to just blast whatever I want. And I'll get all the way home, which is like 20 minutes, and realize that I was just talking to myself the whole time and don't really know what I said, but I feel better. But the fact that, like, when I go to turn off the music and realize that I didn't turn it on, I'm like, oh, I'm feeling kind of rough. Okay.
Yeah. It's no one knows you like you know you.
Mm-hmm.
It's the truth. And you have so much to learn about yourself still. We all do. I hope that I can know myself a little better by the time I reach old age. But I'll tell you right now, even though we're all learning ourselves constantly, no one knows you the way that you know you. You know yourself the best.
Yeah.
So just knowing what you can do for yourself to help yourself, whatever that is so valuable and important.
Yes, absolutely.
So, Dan?
I have typed up a shit ton of stuff because I love this conversation. So I'm sorry if I didn't give a lot of my perspective, but I did throw a lot of it in the notes that I highly suggest looking over, because we have gone over so many topics that can be discussed throughout the night, and I absolutely love it. Just a few pointers that we've all discussed tonight. Just a recap, really. Asking first, really, really important when reaching out. You wouldn't want it to happen to you, so don't do it to someone else. Pretty simple, just like anything else, period. In capital letters, I wrote, wear your damn mask, please. Simple. Negativity can also be in a positive form, in a way of handling anger. Enjoy the little things. Don't let them all get to you, but at the same time, release them in small doses, no different than opening up a bottle of soda. Just slowly let it out. Love the stuff that we talked about with Jenny going over responding to someone looking for a solution. What do you see as your options right now? Helping them figure out what to do, but don't do it for them. They need to do the work, just like all of us. The only way we were able to get from point A to point B is us doing the work. We can be gifted advice. We can be given pointers, but it's our job to take the action and use what is gifted to us. I hold that back with a lot of friends, and I wish I wouldn't bite my tongue, because it makes such a difference when they really sit down and realize, like, you are in control of your life. Stop acting like you aren't. Doesn't mean every situation is easy to handle, but in the long run, if you're going to stay in this rut for the next year, that's kind of on you, not everybody around you. Don't discourage others with the effort that they give to reach a goal. That is such a huge thing. We see it constantly. Don't put others down. That is not the point. Journaling is an important way to let out your frustration to yourself in writing. And a quote that I read earlier as we were going over journaling. I don't journal, but I write down quotes that I love, that I read, as a way to look back and what I post, as pretty much everybody within this page and group sees. But I love you never have to do today again. So no matter what you're feeling right now, you're going to rest tonight. You're going to ease your mind on your pillow. You're going to dream. And by tomorrow, it's going to feel like nothing, because it's just how it works. And it's the best way to look at life.
Yeah, absolutely. Robyn, you have notes too, don't you?
I'm actually going to throw a quote at you guys, if that's okay, because talking about the idea of complacency, that for me, when I was really young, and I was like at the height of everything I was going through, I knew there was complacency in that and why I wasn't making changes. And I remember somebody lent me a graphic novel, and I remember reading this quote. And when I read it, I was like, that's the quote I'm going to get tattooed on me when I hit that point. And I did. So I want to share it. It goes, there's nothing terribly wrong with feeling lost, so long as that feeling precedes some plan on your part to actually do something about it. too often a person grows complacent with their disillusionment, perpetually wearing their quote discomfort like a favorite shirt. I can't say that I'm very pleased with where my life is just now, but I can't help but look forward to where it's going. And when I read that, it hit home so hard for me to realize, like, we all, yes, we get complacent with certain situations. Maybe we can't get out of it. We don't want to get out of it. It's not time to get out of it. But, sometimes, like, we can. Every door is open, and we just kind of have to have that strength to say, maybe I'll, take the back road instead of the main road, kind of thing. So I think breaking your own comforts when you're ready to is so important. And I think as we create this new sense of quote normalcy around us with the whole world, maybe you got to focus on your own little world sometimes and say, what's something new I can create?
Yeah. I love that.
What is that from? That's amazing.
It's from if anybody's seen the show Invader Zim.
Yeah.
It's the same writer. It's a story called Johnny the Homicidal Maniac. It's a really dark humor, but it gets deep at points. And that was the last page of the entire comic series. And I read it and I was like, that is what I need.
I read that growing up, and I was like, this sounds so familiar, and that's amazing.
That's awesome. I love that. I'll have to check
really
that
good
out.
Comic series.
That one.
Yeah, if any of you are not familiar with Johnny the Homicidal Maniac, try to find it. I need to give it a revisit for sure. It was awesome.
It's like your late high school, early college goth phase you were going through, and you still hold on to that book. I still have it. I'm still in it.
So good.
Oh, what a great chat, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, right.
For such an awesome chat.
My gosh, yes. Do either of you have anything last to say, Shelby, Mackenzie?
Thank you for always giving space to everyone else. You're so good at listening, and especially I've noticed when it's all women, you just kind of create space. And we sometimes forget to do that for you, and I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry. I appreciate that. No, seriously, I don't ever feel Shelby. Don't ever feel bad, because as I say when it comes to the PMA sessions, it's not I'm there, and as you are too, but it's the time to give the guests to speak. I comment away on our mental health group. I'll chat up here, no problem, no matter who's on. But the importance is listening to others. And what would life be if we didn't?
Yeah, I will say thank you, Dan. I feel like we ended the last mental health chat that I was on the same way, where I was like, Dan, I'm sorry for rambling, and I love you so much, but thank you, and you didn't really say much at all, and you're just so wonderful. Dan's so wonderful, ladies and gentlemen. He's the greatest. Other than that, no, I don't think I have anything else left to say other than, my friends, please have a good week. And if you can't, know that we love you and that we're here for you. And yeah, I look forward to being on here again one day.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you all for coming on.
Adios.
Spirit fingers.
Spirit fingers.